Welcome back, psychology fans, to a beautifully sunny afternoon in this nature reserve. Today we're discussing trauma. The expression, only the strong will survive. Only the strongest will survive, perhaps. Do we know the true meaning of that? We probably equate it with something more fascist, eugenicist, or politically Darwinian. That sort of survival of the fittest ideology. The physically strong, mentally strong will survive and perhaps outcompete, even to the death, others who are not equal to them. People who perhaps have other needs that cannot be met by the available resources easily. They are therefore weaker and more exploitable by those who are in power and feel no sympathy for them. The strong survive, the weak will die. Supposedly made impossible, or at least more complicated, in a society like ours, of course. But what does it actually mean? What could it actually mean? The strong will survive. You look around you and observe someone, perhaps an acquaintance, or nobody in particular. Ask yourself, is that a person who has survived? If you look closer at that person, they may be talkative, fashionable, maybe has charisma. They have survived what they went through as a child. Or have they? Have they become something else? Perhaps not even somebody else. In effect, in actual truth, because of trauma. Yes, that psychobabble staple of self-help, childhood trauma. I'm going to talk now about things that relate to trauma. That's the word, really. Being traumatized as a child, being hurt as a child, the effect on your nervous system. The resultant effect also that follows on the personality that develops. Narcissists will often see sensitive people as wet and unnecessary, and culturally we've often tolerated this, especially a generation or more ago. Certain places, communities, peer groups, workplaces, it is still the case that you don't need an emotional element as much, that perhaps it's a strange luxury for moody, creative people, pretentious people like me who write poetry, dreamers, who are a worse and stupider version of themselves, as much as they decide to class you as that. Why is that? Is it because when they were a baby or a toddler, they were hurt so much? They were hurt, not less, but were hurt so much that their nervous system, or an important part of it, shattered. And so their nerves were shot from a very early age. They feralized. But ironically, instead of seeming deformed to people, as far as we can tell, instead of seeming like an outcast, they took an expressway to better communication skills, better social presence, verbally and non-verbally more social talent, better athleticism, and no strange walking gait, like the autistic, subautistic Asperger's syndrome type of person, the type I was classed as. But in spite of these advantages, when it comes to trauma, we might have a paradox. Why? Because we still can't answer the question, who was hurt the most? It may seem more likely that it was people who were more sensitive, in the thin-skinned way, who were hurt the most, but ironically their genes or their critical thinking skills are such that they never forget what happened. More accurately, their nervous system and parts of their brain would never forget. Given that you probably don't remember your infancy, or the years, anything in the first 3 or 4 years of life. What is it scientifically? Methylizing of genes, perhaps? Molecular biology. There is some biochemistry of some sort. Healthy body, healthy mind, and vice versa. Epigenetics tends to defects, and yet by comparison the narcissist will grow from strength to strength, won't they? Until that point when for some reason they don't. Perhaps in their career, their shyness and inflexibility, what they expect other people to do to fit around them, will not happen, and so they have to get get someone to fit around something else, often failure. But of course it won't be classed as failure in the same way a more genuine person would do so. Have you ever noticed that they will talk about something irrelevant, but it looks like they're going to talk about something else in the previous moment? Something more relevant, often the more controversial maybe, but that's a gaslight, isn't it? They didn't say what you thought they would. That closed way they have whilst being quite charming, but stringing you along. Perhaps there is more to it still, but they don't tell you. More to whatever it was they were talking about. Didn't say about what they said. They are crafty, devious, ruthless, and yet charming. Often, to somebody, it is just their second nature. Probably it is an example they followed in their formative years, set by parents and or other family over a prolonged period. What is a lie to a liar? What is guilt to the guilty? Back to my original point, who was hurt the most, and how does the strong survive? What do we mean when we say only the strong will survive? There ends the first of this series.